This video has been brought to you by my patrons. If you want to support me, the link is in the description. My Patreon 100% goes to funding other creators. Or if you want, you can join the community Discord, also linked below. So a new Turtles movie has been announced with a trailer to follow. As I'm a longtime Turtle fan, I figured I'd weigh in. Now it's important to note that I genuinely enjoy many of the Turtle shows, and have watched most of them save the stage show and the next mutation. Because I genuinely don't care about those. At all. I have, however, seen all of the first 3 Ninja Turtle cartoons and most of Rise. So you're not talking to someone that has no background in this franchise, nor someone that disregards everything but the original cartoon. This new movie is being headed by Seth Rogen. To be as blunt as possible, I do not like him. I do not like his films, and I have no real faith in anything he's worked on. His sense of humor is the stuff people thought was funny when I was 13. I'm 37 now, and that stuff didn't even appeal to me then. When it comes to the trailer, I can say the animation somewhat bothers me, not just because I think these characters should be done in 2D, but because of how much the character outlines break away from the characters themselves. It's a personal gripe on the visual, so you can take it or leave it. The character designs for the Turtles themselves, I'm fine with. It seems to be focusing on the Turtles when they're younger, likely 13 or maybe even 12. The thing I find odd are all the people going on about how this is a new concept or something, that them acting like teenagers is a new direction when it's not. The 87 Turtles watched B-movies and ate junk food, the 2012 ones constantly bucked against Splinter's wishes, and the Rise ones literally had an entire episode where Splinter is tired of them using their phones for everything, so he drops them off in the woods without them, so they'll figure out how to fend for themselves. Trust me, that is exactly how teenagers are. The only series where they didn't is one of the highest regarded ones, the 2003 series. Anyone making this specific claim clearly has no clue what they're talking about. The other discourse is surrounding April, but I'll be talking about her in a bit, so hold your horses. I'll cover her last since that's a longer point. But it segues into another important topic about this film: diversity in casting. There's been a push in recent years to, when possible, get voice actors that match the race of the character being played. I personally don't mind it, as there certainly could be a wider pool of voice talent as a whole. But in general, I prefer values to be consistent. Having April as black in this doesn't bother me at all, and it didn't bother me in Rise either. However, why are people overlooking Bebop? In every version of the series, Bebop has been black. The only time he wasn't was in the toy of him for the original Mutations toy line in the 90s. But in this one, he's voiced by Seth Rogen, because he can't help himself. So a genuinely privileged Hollywood elite is taking a role that could be used to help a newer person get better work. We're not done on this either. How about Splinter? In the original cartoon, 2012, and Rise, he's Japanese. So can someone explain to me why the only time he's been voiced by a Japanese man was in the 2007 movie? Tell me, Hollywood, or Seth Rogen, do you think all Asians are the same? That they're interchangeable between different nationalities? I'd love to know. If we're going to actively push variations of diversity, I expect bigwigs to sit it out and be consistent. Period. Otherwise, it's just self-aggrandizement. This leads us to April. Firstly, anyone acting like this is the first time April has been black needs to sit down. She was black in Rise too, and she was great. But wasn't she black in the original comic? Well, no. And I'm sorry, but just because prominent comic YouTubers or Twitter accounts say so, doesn't mean it's a representation of reality. TMNT historian page TMNT Entity did a good breakdown of this back when it was first announced that Rise April was black. That's where I'm getting the source of this information from. It'll be linked in the description. Before I break it down though, I'll give you my personal value on race-swapping characters, as it's called. If their race isn't a major factor of the character, or it's not being obviously done to shield from criticism, I don't care. But at the same time, go big or go home. Now back to April. In her first appearance in the comics, she's alongside the scientist Baxter Stockman, a character that is unquestionably black. You'll see that the shading on them is different in multiple panels. Even in later issues, there's nothing in terms of shading that identifies her as black. In the third printing of the second issue of the series, the cover was colored with April on it. At a distance, you may assume she's black with hair dye, but when you look closer, it's obvious she has a tan. When the comic was reprinted in full color for a trade paperback, we also see April white in those editions. This trade was overseen by both creators of the series. 2 issues after her debut, April starts sporting a perm, which she sported for a while and can still be seen in the color cover of issue 11, where she is, once again, depicted as white. The perm is offsetting to modern readers because, to be honest, they didn't live in the 80s. It really didn't matter the ethnicity. That type of perm was the rage for women in that time period. Now, April has sported tans infrequently in the series too, and since the original editions were in black and white, I can understand why someone would think she's black via single issues like this. Now, there is a colored issue where April was colored black, but in the original page it was clear she wasn't meant to be, and in further reprints she's colored as white. April's race is actually noted in the TMNT art biography book, that she was originally created to be Asian, then named after an African American woman. Named after. And who is that woman? Eastman's former wife, April Fisher. Here's a picture of her. Even in Ask blogs, Laird would state he always saw her as white, hence her surname, whereas Eastman would likely see her as mixed race. Even in some of the earliest concept art, April isn't depicted specifically as black. So, was the original comic version of April black? No. Technically, she's an ink drawing giving sentient life by a magic crystal which April discovered when she went back in time and lived in the body of a roach. Yes. That's canon in the original comic. I am not joking. But the original comic April wasn't black. But so what? Her race shouldn't matter, like at all. Every version of April has been drastically different in each iteration. Next to Shredder, she's the most changed character from series to series, with her only through line being the fact that she's self-determined and headstrong. Now, as far as the design for the new one goes, I don't like it. It's not really an appealing design to me. And before some weirdo thinks that means I don't find her sexy, therefore bad, that's not what I mean here. Appealing isn't a purely sexual term. I just don't see anything about this specific design that looks visually good to me. A rarity in April designs that, while varied in style, are all very striking. Personally, I think it's a severe misstep, but, Seth Rogen. I'll give this new movie a watch. I wasn't initially impressed by the designs of Rise, but it won me over with everything else by giving it a chance. So I'll give this one a shot too. Though I'll admit I have no faith in anything Seth Rogen touches. I'm LioConvoy, and I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But for now, take care.